Welcome to the second episode of this talk with Krishi Phagwani, the co-founder and CEO of Hashtag Loyalty, which is India's most widely used customer engagement platform for hospitality and retail businesses. He has been listed among GQ's 25 most influential young Indians in the year 2020. The link for the first episode of this talk is provided in the cards above and the description below. You may consider checking it out that as well.
So Thrive Now recently raised a pre-series A fund in November 2020, and you also raised funds for hashtag loyalty in the seed round. So can you tell us about something about the process of how to pitch, how to reach out to investors, and how to pitch them, or what points you should keep in mind when you are trying to raise funds for your startup?
Correct. So, in terms of funding, right? So we've raised two rounds. In fact, we've raised three rounds so far. The first round was in 2017. It wasn't really a round, but it was more. We joined an incubator called Thinkubate Ventures, and when we
Mm.
joined Thinkubate Ventures, we did raise some capital from them as well. But that was more. That was a very small component, right? The next round we raised was a seed round from Ahimsa Capital, which is a New York-based VC fund, and Whiteboard Capital, which is a fund run by Anshu Prashar and Sandeep Tandon out of Mumbai.
Mm.
Now, we raised a seed round from them, and in fact, our last round that we raised last year was raised from existing investors itself. So both IMSA and Whiteboard kind of pitched in. And we did also bring in two strategic angels on the payments domain because we kind of wanted to align with someone on the payments side of things. Because with Thrive, you're a very payments heavy business, right? So we wanted to kind of align with
Yeah.
someone who's big in that space. So we got in a few strategic angels on that point. Now, in terms of fundraising, it's to be honest, it's a long, tiring, and a very difficult process. We've had a lot of challenges in the past ourselves. In fact, in our early days of hashtag loyalty, so we would participate in a lot of pitch competitions. We would participate in a lot of like networking. I think is key, right, in terms of fundraising because you need to kind of put yourself out there. You will be beaten down from time to time, but it's part of the journey. It's part of the learning process. We've had low days where we've gone and pitched in front of an audience and we've not been able to generate sufficient interest. But we've gotten good feedback, right? And the idea for us was that we've been able to kind of take that feedback, make changes in the business, and kind of go back and then kind of close that chapter as well. So it's a long and tiring process. Feedback broadly is never give up. More importantly, you can be beaten down a lot of times. But the idea with respect to fundraising is right. You need to be able to kind of uh, put out in a very simple manner what you're kind of working towards, where you want to go, what your vision for the company is, how are you going to get there. I think it's key to kind of ensure that before you go out to fundraise, you need to be clear that as a business you've kind of achieved product market fit, because that's probably the first thing that a lot of people look for. Because once you achieve product market fit, then it's about getting that flywheel going, that marketing or that growth flywheel kind of going, and just kind of leveraging that to kind of grow faster, right? That's when you need the capital to kind of expand. So product market fit
Yeah.
is probably the single most important thing according to me when it comes to fundraising. If you're able to crack that and able to kind of showcase that you've been able to achieve this and this is your vision for the company, fundraising should not be that difficult. Outside of that, I think networking is key. So the more you network, the more you get to have conversations with people. You get to understand different perspectives, and that kind of helps you kind of tailor your conversations better as well when you're talking to investors.
Yeah, that was really insightful. So, what are the challenges which Thrive Now is currently facing, according to you? And how do you plan to allocate this funds in solving this problem, which you have raised recently?
Correct. So I think the funds raised we raised recently, to be honest, was not a lot. It was a bridge round that we raised last year. We will be looking to raise a large round towards the end of this year. The idea of the funds that we raised right now is number one to kind of help us get to a certain point scale wise. So we're looking to with hashtag with the last year that happened right with COVID, our revenues took a beating. So in April, May, June, our revenues dropped 90% versus what they were in March 2020. They slowly started recovering through the end of the year, but because as restaurants started opening up, they started using our product again, right? So subscription revenue started coming in again. I think we got to a point in December or January, in fact, where we recovered subscription revenue 100%. Correct. So the reason why we required the funds was to kind of get the right team in place for Thrive. I think two big areas that we have invested in from a team perspective has been support and customer success. So with hashtag loyalty, we had a very flat business development team where the same members would work on everything from sales to operations to customer success and whatever it is, right? I think we wanted to kind of change that around because with hashtag loyalty, we're very feet on street focused, very sales heavy at the front, right? To acquire a customer, we would do outbound sales, reach out to a customer, get them on board. With Thrive, we didn't want to go that route, so we decided to kind of take some capital and kind of leverage that to build out a customer success and a support team, and then focus more on marketing-led growth, wherein we kind of market very smartly on different channels and kind of acquire customers via that. And then leverage the product itself to kind of get the customers engaged and stuff like that and upsell the subscription or other things. So success and support why becomes an important factor because once we get those customers on board, right? It's the customer success and the support person's role to kind of ensure that onboarding is done smoothly, and then people start getting orders very smoothly and stuff like that, right? And once they've gotten used to kind of becoming a Thrive customer, then the success team would upsell the hashtag loyalty suite to them so that we can leverage more and kind of make more from the customer as well. So success and support were two areas, and outside of that, on the development front, we did have to kind of bring one or two people on board as well to kind of help build the product faster. And marketing is another area that we're kind of spending on right now.
Oh, can you tell us about one experience from your hashtag loyalty journey where things did not work out the way you wanted them to be, or share your some experience in which you did something, any particular decision of yours did not turn out to be the way you wanted it to be, and what did you learn from that experience?
The two mistakes that we've made so far in our journey that have had decent impact on us as an organization. I think the first mistake is that we've never considered until recently going outside the country in terms of with hashtag loyalty specifically. The reason why that's a big mistake, and you probably see this with a lot of SaaS companies today, everyone's looking to go outside, right?
Hmm.
Because it's the difference in the customer mindset in India and outside India. In India, the customer mindset is more focused on features. The more features you get, the more value is perceived, irrespective of how valuable that feature is or not. And I think one of our mentors from this accelerator called Opeka, it's a B2B SaaS accelerator out of Bangalore. One of them keeps telling us how customers in India basically, or a lot of Indian startups end up becoming thali startups, where you have like 10 products or 10 different features and things like that, right? That is actually not required. And the challenge with doing that, right? And this is a mistake we made with hashtag loyalty as well, with the kind of products we rolled out. And we realized this over time and started shelving products because we started building a lot. The moment someone requested something, we built it in the middle, right? We built a couple of products, spent maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months building out something, only to kind of shelve that product 6 months later. Correct. So I think two mistakes here. One is focus on one problem and solve that problem instead of focusing on a wide variety of problems. Second is for B2B SaaS companies, always look outside India. There's way too much money to be made there. In fact, there's India is India is one of the largest markets for B2B SaaS in terms of SaaS companies coming out of here. And the next 5 years, you'll see a big boom, bigger than what you're seeing today, in companies out of India actually becoming successful selling abroad. The third learning or the third mistake that we made was with pricing. So pricing is something that can make or break a business. But pricing is unfortunately an area that we hadn't focused on a lot as an organization. Something that kind of we started actually looking into and kind of focusing on only last year, early last year. Correct. So I think that has been one of the biggest learnings in terms of pricing. How can you kind of focus pricing more on value-based pricing versus cost-based or competitor-based pricing? There are certain companies that we know of and certain products that I know of and that I can tell you that have done this very well. There's this point-of-sale system in the restaurant space called POSIST. They're a premium point of sale. Premium why? Because they might have the same level of features and stuff like that as a regular, as maybe another point of sale, right? But they've been
Hmm.
very successful in kind of taking a product that was once selling for 12,000 rupees a year and now generating around 40 to 50,000 rupees a year with that product. Correct. The thing is that they
Yeah.
price not on what competitors are doing, but they price based on the value that they were giving. And that
Okay.
pricing alone has kind of helped them grow their business so much. Now that will limit your audience, but it'll limit your audience to people that are actually serious about your product, not guys who will
Mm.
come on board for like a month, 2 months, 3 months, and then drop off. So pricing is one of the key areas, the key elements that I feel a lot of companies don't, including us, in fact, don't actually spend a lot of time on. That is probably one of the biggest things that you should be focusing on during your early days.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So would you like to give some motivational message to someone who is looking out, like someone who is in their college or even their school days, wants to be entrepreneur or start their own business in future?
Sure. Uh, so I think motivational message aside, I think entrepreneurship is a very it's a very interesting journey. Uh, it is like a roller coaster. There will be ups and downs, but I think the key thing that a lot of people should take out, and you should take it in a very positive manner. You might be completely beaten down, but there's always something to learn out of it. So you should consider entrepreneurship, or if you do get into the space, uh, start slowly. Look at before you dive into building something. Look deeper into the problem. Look deeper. Spend a lot of time with your customers or potential customers. Right. That is probably the most important thing when it comes to entrepreneurship and starting a business. Your customers are the most important. So spend as much as time as you can learning from them, understanding who they are, what their problems are, and things like that, right? And once you do get into the journey, enjoy every moment of it. As I said, there will be ups and downs, but there'll be so much to learn from the downs that you have. Today, when I look to hire people for different roles, uh, if I see someone with a profile wherein he's gone out and started their own company or kind of launched a company, and it does not matter if they haven't succeeded, right? If they've maybe done something and failed, it does not matter. The amount that someone learns from that journey, right, is far more than anyone would from working in a specific organization. So it is that learnings that are very valuable, that learnings that you can kind of keep with you and kind of leverage to kind of grow to your next thing.